Hi everybody, it's Josh. Just tuning in a little bit ahead of time to let you know there were audio issues with this episode in regards to new mic setups that we've been testing out. There are some audio quality issues in the back on Ben's mic that you might hear in places that we've attempted to quell. There is also a strange issue that is had with scratchiness on my mic. That lasts for about 10 minutes in the podcast. We couldn't work around it too much. We had to end up switching mics during the podcast, so we apologize ahead of time. There wasn't a lot we could do about these issues. However, we will make sure that they don't become issues in the future. With that in mind, it's not throughout the entire episode, so thank you so much for listening and for being patient with us. On to the episode, I guess.
I sat down, unfortunately, so we will see how it goes. But I have a lot of them.
I had a couple of notes and I've forgotten all of them, so.
This is the second time I'm eating chicken franchise on air.
Your audio setup is
get chicken franchise this app.
Your audio setup is good because I don't hear any chewing or anything.
Perfect.
Which is wonderful for our audience.
At some point, I imagine within the first 5 minutes of the podcast, there will be the sound on my end of opening more beer, though. So
that's fine. Do it now.
I'm not.
That way I don't have to edit it out. Okay.
Just because you asked nicely, I'm gonna make sure to do it in the middle of a sentence.
I'll wait for Josh's new segment. It starts talking.
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, the podcast where we listen to one Star Wars movie every week forever and also watch it, apparently. This is the horrifying second rotation in which we are on, once again, Phantom Menace.
Yay!
Yay!
How was the watch, Ben?
Not bad.
Not bad? That's
good.
I
think I blacked out for all the boring shit.
So the glazed over eyes has started?
Yeah. It's just... this movie was just Duel of the Fates and pod racing. That's all this movie was.
Chris, how was your watch?
Yeah, it was alright. It could have been a lot worse. I expected worse.
This was the worst week I've had in terms of this podcast.
Okay, you did that to yourself, though.
I know.
Great build-up.
So for everyone at home, I am watching all of the special features on the 2004 DVDs, on the Blu-ray sets, and on the Blu-ray releases, except for Rise of Skywalker, and on Disney+.
I will probably have Rise of Skywalker to you before we get to that movie, though, so...
You are brilliant, and you do not have to do that.
I have to buy the movie just so I have the collection, you know what I mean?
Is he brilliant or a monster for doing that to you?
Yeah.
Well, I asked him to. So, here's the thing. Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace are the hardest to do on this because they have the most special features. They have miles more special features than any of the other movies. So once I'm through this and the worst... Well, I can't even say that anymore. This and the next movie, I should be fine, but... Oh my god, I spent so much time watching Star Wars shit this week. It was awful. Genuinely awful. But I have tons of content, so...
That's a thing I meant to ask you after the last episode, and I never got around to it in the maybe a little bit too drunk ranting. How do you feel about going into Attack of the Clones next week after Rise of Skywalker?
I will say for sure that, without a doubt, Rise of Skywalker, then Phantom Menace, then Attack of the Clones, we can all agree is going to be the roughest thing that we do.
Nah.
There's a pod race right in the middle. I'm good.
And
Rise of Skywalker is the worst movie in the entire franchise. That was solidified for me when I rewatched it for the second time.
And then Phantom Menace and then Attack of the Clones, right?
No, Attack of the Clones is still worse than Phantom Menace.
You're a monster.
Nope.
Because Attack of the Clones doesn't have a pod race.
Oh my god. I know, we're in your element this week, Ben. We're really in your element. This is where you get to be your most Ben.
This has nothing to do with the special features. Despite the fact that I had to watch through the special features in some capacity, the pod race 5 times. But for
I'm
reasons
jealous.
I cannot explain, I had to do some research on a pod racer last week, and I have the most batshit insane shit to say about the old lore on the pod racers. I don't remember if it's the old or new lore anymore, but I have just the most batshit insane things to say about the lore on some of these pod racers.
Please, indulge us.
So it's going to start out with some really bad news.
Oh god, are we gonna start on the pod race?
Yeah.
Oh
We're
god.
Ben Quadranero is not everything you think of him, Ben.
Pardon me?
So, Ben Quadranero is apparently, this was his first race,
Yep.
and he was known as a big old coward.
Yep.
So the person that I had to do research on was Bolos Roar. Don't remember him? Well, he's a Sneevil from the planet Sneevil.
Of course, the obvious answer.
And he's a 2-time winner of the Bunta Eve Classic. And so Bulba's greatest rival. But he's not very good at it anymore at the time of Phantom Menace because he was like a decent pod racer, and him and Sebulba have a thing, but like everybody said that Bolos Roar, the Sneevil from Planet Sneeve, was extremely lucky in his pod racing career. What he was good at is that he was a Glimmick singer. Now, Glimmick, stay with me now,
I'm loving this.
is like this techno offbeat heavy metal brand in Star Wars.
I'm loving it.
And apparently, he was like the Nirvana of Glimmick. And this was
Really
after
overrated.
that. This was after that, and he came back and was kind of pressured into this. So, our buddy Sneeve from the planet Sneevil, or our buddy Bolos Roar, the Sneevil from the planet Sneeve, is kind of a huge racist. And on what it was essentially Tatooine morning TV, he essentially called out Ben Quadranero for being a coward and made a bet with him, or called out him and then called out Sebulba, and then in a tavern later where there was a huge fight between everybody, he made a bet with Ben Quadranero that he would not even show up for the pod race, and he would not run in it. A bet that he lost, because Ben Quadranero did show up for the pod race, even if his pod racer blew the hell up.
After a full lap?
No, at the starting line it blew up.
No, I mean after everyone else completed a full lap.
And he almost got run over, which is a theme in this movie. But afterwards, our buddy Bolos Roar, the Sneevil from the planet Sneeve, retired, paid up his debts, did not stop being a huge racist, but basically continued his Glimmick career until he randomly started racing again when he decided to do propaganda for the Confederacy of Independent Systems. And the last thing on his article is he was scheduled to run in the Desor Challenge the same day of the final vote on the act, weather permitting. That is the last sentence on the article.
Damn.
So, Bolos Roar.
Oh.
I mean, where do we go from here?
I had to share that. I didn't have a choice. I had to know it, so you all do too.
Can we make this a thing, please? Can we, every time we come back to Phantom Menace, do a deep dive on a different pod racer?
I will personally take up that bit.
You're not going to find much more because this is the majority of the... I know that there is another racer whose family was cut from the movie, who I'm pretty sure died in the race. Not many of these people died when you think they died. I'm pretty sure this one died. Who had their wife and 2 newly born babies at the race. So that's a thing.
Oh God.
Like I said, I had to watch this pod race in some capacity 5 times. And I never want to think about it.
The best part to me about that is I think you could certainly make an argument that those people died because of Liam Neeson.
I mean, you're not, well,
They were gonna die. Most of them were
Yeah.
probably gonna die either way.
yeah, and Sebulba was definitely responsible for most of that.
I mean, where do we go from there?
This is the best opening I could have ever
This
asked
is-
for a rotation.
Well, I know where we go from here. Not any more pod race talk. So,
Good
actually, no, I have to fit
fucking
one last thing in here. One last thing in here, and it's not necessarily about the pod race. It's actually about when they went to Tunisia to film. Do you know what months that they went to Tunisia to film?
Saturday?
Yes, the month of Saturday.
They went at the end of July and the beginning of August.
Oh my god.
Okay.
The temperatures
Oh my
were
God.
115 to 130 degrees every day they were there.
Jesus Christ.
The day that they filmed Shmi saying goodbye to Anakin, it was 127 degrees under the shadow of covering. And people were in suits there. People were in fake makeup there. People were forced to sit outside on those stands in the heat there. One of the big things that happens here when they're in Tunisia is there's a storm that comes through. It's a typhoon that destroys most of the sets, including especially the pod racers.
It's almost as if the gods were trying to say no.
Yeah. Well, George Lucas said this happened when he was making A New Hope, so he took it as a sign that things were going to go well. I say it was because they put their entire crew through the worst months of summer in the middle of the desert because they couldn't do it earlier. But, you know.
And
I
that's
just
George Lucas. Like, George Lucas really is that guy to get struck by lightning because God wants to punish him for his hubris of being out in a rainstorm in a fucking, like, knight armor. Like, this is fine. I'm going to be totally fine. Everything's great.
What could possibly go wrong?
If I get struck by lightning, we do a Lando clone trilogy. All right, let's go. Come on.
Chris really wants this to happen.
Yeah, you are really into the Lando thing.
It's hilarious. That
It's
is
frightening.
It's frightening, but holy shit.
My God.
Like, if there is a character in the Star Wars universe that I had to handpick to have a clone army of and thousands of CGI versions of on screen, it is Lando Calrissian.
Well, you just want thousands of Billy D. Williams, and really
Yes. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Not even Lando Calrissian, just Billy D. Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus fucking Christ.
See, I'm not as miserable this week as I assumed I would be. I have, like, almost renewed energy. This is my second wind. Just, the movie's garbage, but I'm here with my friends. Everything's fine.
Yeah, we had like a powwow after the last episode, and it seemed like it was extremely healthy despite this very unhealthy podcast.
I was in a miserable mood today until we opened on pod racing, and now I'm happy. I'm happy because everyone else is in pain.
To be fair, that was the agreement when you came on the podcast, is that we would be in pain.
Yeah. I have a rant.
Okay, please go. Otherwise, this would just be me
everyone's-
talking about special features for an hour.
Everyone's had their turn to talk about Yoda being a piece of shit. And I, probably the most staunch Yoda defender, I'm about to go on a Yoda rant. So, and because we can't go out of order, at the end of the movie, they're at Qui-Gon's funeral pyre. Fucking Mace Windu goes, "Oh, but did we kill the master of the apprentice?" And Yoda goes, "Two there always are. No more, no less." I have several questions about that line.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the line that sparked 1,000 fan theories. Because according to the old canon, they shouldn't know that. So why
No,
does Yoda
because
know?
after Darth Bane, none of the Jedi knew the Sith were still around
I know, that's what I said.
until Darth Maul shows up. Yeah, I know, but
I-
I'm introducing the less informed.
Okay.
So
Yoda definitely was a dark side user.
either that, or Yoda somehow knew this whole time about the rule of two, and the descendants of the Sith, Master and Apprentice, and just didn't fucking tell anyone until Darth Maul showed up.
See, I feel like that's going to be a really dumb thing that they give us an explanation for in this, like, dumbass High Republic thing they're doing. Because this
Probably.
is supposed to be the period of time where, you know, Yoda's alive, it's after the Old Republic, the Jedi are, like, at the height of their power, the Sith have been eradicated, supposedly. So I guarantee we'll get some dumbass thing of, like, no, Yoda knew, but he didn't want to, like, panic the galaxy or something, or like some dumb bullshit that's only going to tarnish Yoda's legacy even more.
He did tell Mace, but to be honest, Mace is complicit in a lot of Yoda shit.
That's true. Mace is Yoda's like right hand, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
The only way I could see this is if Yoda somehow like uncovered something about the rule of two that was like from ages ago, and he was like, "Oh, this is some old weird Sith shit that died out."
Yeah.
And then he didn't realize it was still a thing until Darth Maul showed up, and he's like, damn, there's always two.
Yeah, well, one of the things they did, there was a contest, I don't know exact details, I don't have this written down, but there was a contest that they did for fans to create the alien species that trained Yoda on Dagobah. It was like this really cool, long, sleek, slinky, snail-like creature with multiple arms and stuff like that. It's gotta suck to be that person. They put a lot of work into that and won like a 1 in a million chance, and now that's just not canon.
Damn.
But no, yeah, on the subject of Yoda, I think we mentioned a lot about Yoda in Phantom Menace last rotation. But I don't think we mentioned Yoda making decisions for the council because he's annoyed with Obi-Wan. Without speaking to any of them, he's there sent by the council to say, no, fuck you, Anakin's not going to become a Jedi. And as soon as Obi-Wan is like, yeah, but I'm going to go space cokehead uncle on you, and he's like, fuck. All right, you can train him. Maybe that's why Mace was so mad for so long. It's like, dude, I am your right-hand man, I am your defender. Why the hell was I not involved in that conversation? Maybe that's why Mace hates Anakin so much.
No, I feel like Mace hates Anakin so much because Mace was in the camp of, fuck that kid, I don't want him anywhere near my cult.
Yeah, but to be fair, Yoda was too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, Mace just hated Anakin, and I don't think it goes much deeper than that. The level of disdain the two of them have for Anakin. I mean, I give Mace credit because he's at least like, I don't like you. Yoda's like, fuck you, I'm going to play with your emotions so bad, you're going to slaughter a group of Tusken Raiders.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to make an argument for any of the Jedi's method at this point.
Except, no, I can't even. I was going to say except Qui-Gon, but yeah, no, can't say that.
No.
Qui-Gon was the fucking worst.
Yeah, Qui-Gon was the worst.
It really is all of them.
Because,
Yeah,
like, that's the thing. Whereas Yoda and Mace Windu are fully bought in on the cult mentality, Qui-Gon's worse because he has all of the, like, teachings of the cult and, like, way less of their, like, hindrances. Because at least the Jedi have some stuff holding them back a little bit. Qui-Gon's like, nah, fuck it, I'll gamble some kids. I don't fucking care. Like, Yoda's not going to be on a fucking planet like, yes, give me the child, or murder you I will. Like,
I'm not 100% convinced that Liam Neeson wasn't smoking, like, the entire process. I have a quote here from the visual effects, like, bit that they did from Liam Neeson.
oh my god.
Which is amazing. There was a huge crew, lots of computers, lots of wires, and lots of guys hunched over these machines, and I thought, I know they have to do what they have to do for the film, but I don't quite want to know what they're up to over there. Like, as if he was horrified by their very existence.
Liam Neeson totally thought they were a part of like a government conspiracy or something.
By the way, Liam Neeson is also the only person that wasn't at the table read from the main.
That sounds right. That just makes sense to me for some reason.
Speaking of table reads, in the famous words of Chris, I'm about to insult a small child. There's a web doc that they did called 3000 Anakins, in which they show, and they actually put this in like the beginning, the making of Phantom Menace as well, where they show like some of the talent that they went through, and they got it down to like 3 Anakins. And I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news we'll start with is that there was 100% a better Anakin there. Devin Michael, who was 100% more on beat and I could totally see not being annoying in this entire movie. He had a little bit of that smoldering Hayden Christensen about him, and I'm surprised George didn't go to him, where sometimes he'll hit a line where he's trying to be like a little, but he hit every point. Their excuse for not taking him was that some people just auditioned really well. And then there was Christopher Lloyd, who fucked up the first take by entirely losing all of his lines, and then did the same exact performance he did in the movie for the second take. Good news. There's another actor there, Michael Angarano, I believe is the pronunciation. You would know him. He's been in Music in the Heart, Cover Me. He's Jack's son in Will and Grace. He was in the Disney TV fascist film Sky High as the main character. Forbidden Kingdom, Jackie Chan. Adult Ned Shipley.
Oh, shit.
He's been in a ton of stuff. He was also Nick Pearson in This Is Us. So he's had a pretty successful career, all things considered.
Like how the only one I know him from is a fascist propaganda film.
So he's had a pretty good, successful career. It sounds like he had a hell of a career, so I don't feel bad saying that he was the worst. He was so bad. He was so fucking bad. Like, he mumbled his lines. He had no inflection. He, like would not look Natalie in the eye. It was so bad. It was so bad.
Yeah, fuck you, kid.
He's had a successful career. I made sure to look him up before I said this.
Take that, successful actor.
I'm sorry.
Man, we're punching real low on this podcast. We're just we're really just mocking those less fortunate.
I mean, less fortunate.
I'm sorry. Was my tone not dripping with enough facetiousness?
It was not, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Maybe you're just. This is who I am as a person. That's actually a possibility, because I'm always like that.
The room in which Jar Jar was CGI'd had a giant sign above it that said "Right Turd Only," and I just feel like that fits really well.
Wait, what?
There was a massive road sign over the room where the original Jar Jar CGI was tested. Instead of "Right Turn Only," it said "Right Turd Only." Wow, you guys got a kick out of that.
I enjoy that way more than I can justify.
I only mentioned it because I like my hard turn change of topics, and 2, because it felt emblematic of where their head was at with Jar Jar, but you really enjoyed that.
I mean, it makes me happy because this is more entertainment than I ever expected to get from the Phantom Menace, so.
Another thing that really annoyed me, George has a habit of drawing on people's concept art and like on the storyboards and shit like that, which really annoyed me.
Actually taking like a Sharpie or something and drawing on it?
Yes. The first thing he got, there's this beautiful piece of concept art for Queen Amidala. It's like this beautiful and intricate kimono with like flowing sleeves and an intricate gown. And George's first response was, "Oh," and then he took a Sharpie and then he put an hourglass figure over it and said more like that. To like say, okay, it's got to be tighter.
Oh my god.
And he did that several times.
Make that dress for the 14-year-old much tighter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we've already touched on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of things in Hollywood that don't look great in retrospect, but George Lucas is really shaping up to be a glaring example of it.
Another thing, there was the scene that she uses at the Senate building. There's this beautiful, beautiful regal attire you remember. These regal yellow trimmings with metal pieces made out of pure gold and the red fabric that flows really well. And this heavy black fur that drapes the shoulders. I absolutely love it, except for the fact that there's this massive weird fucking bison horn wig thing that they put on her, and it weighs 1,000,000 pounds. You can see her like right before they film that scene, and she like looks like her neck is being compressed, and she's has like this fake smile on her face. I don't want to assume what Natalie Portman was feeling, but I cannot assume it was a genuine smile. And she looked at the camera and she said, "I'm fine with it as long as it doesn't give me brain damage or something." So my follow up to that question: has anybody checked her for motherfucking brain damage? Because I'm worried about Natalie Portman.
To be fair, that sounds like an answer I would give.
No, I'm worried about her. I'm genuinely worried about her. That thing looked so awful, and she looked like she was dying in it.
Oh my god. I can't even imagine.
Oh, man.
I never understood the headpieces. Or just 90% of the costuming for Queen Amidala. It is a level of how does this work physically that just hurts.
Yeah, I don't know. It's they clearly had a vision there for that. And I get it, but everything else would have been great without the ridiculous headpieces. You could have done that whole outfit just minus that.
I do admire, though, at least they're willing to follow through with it, because they had the crazy headpieces in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And in all of the extended media. Like, I appreciate the fact that they're like, all right, we did it. We gotta fucking stick it out. They're at least willing to be consistent in their fuckery.
Hi, this is Josh from the future or the past. We're still recording 6 weeks ahead of where you are. So we're probably like on The Force Awakens now or whatever. That's a thought. Anyway, it's at this point in the podcast where I got a phone call and I had to leave these boys to talk about the Queen's attire. And I feel very bad about that because I definitely adore the clothing in this movie, like, a lot. So I just wanted to throw in there, absolutely not, they should not have changed anything about these clothings except, like, maybe the headdress that compressed Natalie Portman's C1, C3, and C4 vertebrae in her neck. Like, that's all I wanted to say, was, like, maybe, don't try to give Natalie Portman neck damage permanently. Okay. These outfits are incredible. Back to the podcast.
That's it's got to be a point that I don't know if I've ever heard anyone touch on, which is the nightmare it must have been. So I think, the three of us were very creative. We're we dabble in writing and D&D and stuff, like, so I think it'd be pretty exciting, to get the opportunity to work on like a Star Wars book. That's like some crazy lofty dream. Can you imagine, though, getting that job and then having the realization of, oh, I got to deal with a bunch of this dumbass Kent. Like, you get to write a cool, you get to write a book. Oh, I got to think up some dumb headpiece and fucking describe it in the writing, and I got to fucking, yeah.
I gotta try and make this fucking work.
I have to use the Trade Federation. Oh my god, do I have to use the dialect and the accents that they...
God. Yeah, fuck the Trade Federation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's so fucking rough every time. I mean, there's not even an excuse you can make for it, like, not even a little bit, because it's very clear what's happening there.
You want to know what gets me through the Trade Federation parts? And it doesn't make it better. Like, it's still a piece of shit. But watching the mouth movements is just the best. It's the only way I survive those scenes.
Can I take Trade Federation hate one step farther to the actor behind one of them, the main guy, Newt Gunray? That actor is constantly sexually harassing women on the set.
Seriously?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
so he's a piece of shit in real life, too.
There's the most overt of them. He thinks he's really clever, and you see that kind of attitude in a lot of places. The most overt of them was when they were trying on the suit when the lips are moving. And he said to this woman that was testing it out, there's a lot of people that will pay a woman to dress them up in this particular kind of outfit. And she said, not me. And he's like, oh, really? And she's like, really? And he shut up after that. There's a lot of that kind of off-color humor that comes from him that made me genuinely uncomfortable.
This is why I will never work in Hollywood. Christ.
I think I have a new goal in life, though.
That was a hell of a transition.
I want to get...
All right, Josh, what's your new goal in life?
Okay,
By the way, Newt Gunray harassed women. I have a new goal in life.
Exactly.
I want to get... I'm so sorry.
Fuck on the transition.
You're right.
That was
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
I want to get Rick McCallum, producer of these movies, on this podcast.
Yeah, okay. Josh.
Well, I did some research.
You have fun with that, Josh.
First of all, he sounds like a character based on what I have seen, and apparently, after Lucasfilms was bought out by Disney, he retired to a farmhouse in the Ukraine. So I don't think he's doing a lot.
I mean, does he have Wi-Fi in his farmhouse in the Ukraine?
I would assume so, based on just his general disposition. But I would like to get Rick McCallum on this podcast because I have many questions for him, and I'd like to hear his answers.
Josh,
I'm all for it.
I would like to point out, this podcast has taken us 9 weeks for one of us to have a half-decent microphone. So my bar isn't going that high.
Oh, I know. It's like a long-term goal, so I have to say a lot of nice things about Rick McCallum, which...
Does Rick McCallum have a Twitter or a social media page?
I do not believe so.
God, I'm going to have to find out how to mail a letter to the Ukraine, aren't I?
Well, first of all, we need to get viewers. I love all of our friends, but we don't really have the audience, but that's the goal.
I love all of our audience forever. You're all my favorite people.
All of our audience is some of my best friends in the world and wonderful people, but we still have, like, a small audience, and we need to grow it if we're going to get to our goal of getting Rick McCallum, producer of Star Wars, onto the podcast.
I mean, we have...
Because I'm the worst with names. Who
Rick McCallum?
is Rick McCallum?
McCallum is the producer on all 3 of the prequel movies.
Oh, okay. I recognize the name. I just couldn't place it. You two both know I'm god-awful with names.
He will say respects the hell out of George. More than anyone else, which I respect out of him. Rick McCallum is the best buddy George Lucas has ever had, I think. His starchest defender, and of course, George Lucas needs defenders, and I'd like to speak with him because he has interesting ideas.
I don't think we're going to get him on the show if he's one of Lucas's strongest defenders, first off.
Why not? I don't see an issue there at all.
We just in the most overt but thinly veiled way just alluded that George Lucas is a sexual predator like 20 minutes ago.
Chris, I have no idea where it is you're getting this hateful disposition from, but I don't appreciate it. Nope, I can't do it.
I'd like to invite you all to lower your voices And just, we've said a lot about Star Wars today, and about George Lucas and Rick McCallum. But there's no doubt in anyone's minds that George Lucas is a poet, we'll say. His stanzas rhyme. So let's put aside the exhaustion and anger and resentment, the fear of death and the cycle. Let's just take a moment and breathe. And say what's on our
cryptic messages from Josh in my fucking inbox.
Let's call upon the essence of the Force and do a little trailer tone poetry slam.
I don't like where this is going.
So the poetry slam is a segment I'd like to do every once in a while when we come back to the Phantom Menace that are about the tone trailers available on the special features of the 2004 release of Phantom Menace that was commercialized when the movie was coming out. They are trailers that shows little story snippets, little character snippets, in which the voice actors say a tone poem about their characters.
I'm scared.
So I'd like to just, pretend that this isn't plague times and I'll sit down in the middle of a club. And I'd like, let's say, Ben, pick a number between 1 and 3.
Why me?
I don't know. I just think, okay, Chris can do it. Chris, pick a number between 1 and 3.
God damn it, Ben.
I don't want this blood on my hands, Chris.
2.
Okay. Let's just bring our attitudes down. Future me, if you could edit in some snapping to go with the
I hate this so much. Future Josh, please edit out this whole segment, thank you. Let's go back to talking about Rick McCallum.
This is Queen Amidala, played by Natalie Portman, entitled One Will. There are things I cannot do. I cannot watch while people suffer. I cannot sit when something must be done. I cannot judge those who are different. There are things I cannot do. Run, hide, ignore. There are things I cannot do, but there are things, certainly things I will do. Thank you for your time.
You're a real son of a bitch for this.
That
You're first, then you feel bad.
that flows so well. There's you can't tell me that there isn't one word out of place in.
Josh,
Yes.
I'm gonna cry myself to sleep tonight, and I want you to know that you are the reason. Because you've introduced this into my life, so now I have to go down this fucking rabbit hole.
Thank you for coming to my Tone Pone poetry slam.
We're never doing this again. I refuse to allow this to happen again.
Josh, you can expect my
apologize.
resignation letter in the mail.
I apologize to our audience for allowing this to happen in the first place.
You cannot tell me that poem wasn't absolute. I mean, just the best poem you've ever experienced.
Well, I had renewed energy coming back into this rotation. And now it's as if the wind has been sucked from my sails. And spiritually, I'm in the Ukraine with Rick McCallum.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'd like to talk about a few people that are on set, and they fascinate me. There are 2 carnies on the set of the Star Wars prequels.
What?
Gillard, the stunt coordinator, who is an absolutely fascinating person to watch. He has like this stark white balding hair with like this alpha style like sway to it. And he says in these special features that he joined the circus when he ran away from military school and that he was sent to by his parents. And I just want a documentary entirely devoted to him.
What a fucking legend.
That is the man that shaped lightsaber fights. There's also Mark Siegel, who works on the construction of statues and models for the movies. And he started out as a clown for the Ringling Brothers, and then went into acting and found sculpture work from there. How? It's not specifically clear. But I do know that these two wonderful people I'm fascinated by them, and I want documentaries on both of them.
Oh my god! I'm gonna start a fundraiser to get these documentaries off the ground.
If this podcast one day makes $1, we'll put that dollar towards getting documentaries about these wonderful people.
I mean, first and foremost, I think any funding we receive first goes towards hiring a PI, because I can't find a single bit of information about how one would keep up with Rick McCallum.
From his Wikipedia page that he retired, and it doesn't sound like he's doing anything.
He doesn't have a Twitter. He doesn't have fucking anything.
It's alright, Chris. We got our whole lives to get him on the show.
All I have found is that he has settled in the Czech Republic, and
It's the Czech Republic, I apologize.
he runs a production company.
I mean, that seems totally legitimate.
I know this episode has been even more off topic than normal, but I need to read you just a snippet of this article that I found. McCallum founded Film United in Prague after falling in love with the emerging Czech democracy and with the Czech woman who is now his Czech wife.
What the fuck? What the absolute fuck?
This is my Czech wife. Here are our Czech children.
I mean,
Live in a Czech house.
Rick, if that's what you refer... No, I don't want...
No, it's not. This is not coming from him. This is not a quote from him. This is the article writing about him.
No, you don't. Okay. See, I'm running into a problem here. I really want Rick McCallum on our show. Rick McCallum, come on our show. But it's very hard to talk about Rick McCallum while wanting him on the show.
And like that, we dashed all of Josh's hopes and dreams
Like,
by talking about his Czech wife.
there's so many questions I have for Rick McCallum, and it requires me to not talk about Rick McCallum. And folks, I really want to talk about Rick McCallum.
It's the first rule of Rick McCallum Club. You don't talk about Rick McCallum.
Oh, God.
Jesus Christ.
To try to steer us on some kind of path.
Good luck.
I never really, like, obviously we know that the lightsaber work in the prequels was, like, super dangerous and people actually got hurt. Like, Ewan McGregor was so famous for bending, like, the lightsaber rods that they use in one go that they actually ran out of a budget for keeping up with it. So, in the first movie, so they had to try to make them work a few times more by trying to bend them back into place. Ray Park got a black eye from a misplaced lightsaber during one of the duels, and it looks nasty. It looks like it was engorged and bloodshot, and it needs to heal up a little bit, but it never really set in how dangerous it looks. More respect to Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, there's a couple of shots from, oh god, it's a documentary even I've seen, like some behind the scenes stuff of Ray Park with that big ass black eye, and that was always a thing. I was never sure if it was a black eye or if it was like, he had like some of the mall makeup on still, but yeah, no, I believe it. I've seen some of that fucking footage of them going at it with the training sabers. They were not fucking around.
No, they were not.
Which is
Oh my
impressive
God.
from Ewan McGregor's perspective of having, to my knowledge, like no combat training, even like film combat training or anything, to fucking just go in that hard with a guy like Ray Park.
Yeah, who should we throw at him first? Let's see what Ewan can do.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Ewan McGregor and Liam No Shoulders over there. We'll fucking throw him in the ring and we'll... Oh, God.
There is a distinct difference between how Liam is on set with lightsabers and how Ewan is. Liam like takes it in stride. He probably has a little bit more like experience with dueling or whatever. Ewan McGregor, every time he finishes a scene, just like he'll say shit to the camera like, they said, do you want to do Star Wars? And I said, too fucking right. Just he's so happy to be beating the shit out of people with a metal rod. And I love that for him.
I believe it was Ewan McGregor, too, who on the set of the prequels would not stop making lightsaber noises during the actual lightsaber fights.
Liam actually talks about it. Liam is actually the one that brings it up in the doc, and he's like, Ewan and I were starting to go through the basic motions of the lightsaber duel with Maul, and they both were doing it, and Liam was the one to look at Ewan and say, all right, we have to stop this right now.
So even off camera, they were master and apprentice.
Yeah, pretty much.
Obi-Wan, knock it off right the fuck now.
There's there's so many deleted scenes, but the one that... So, I want to give a shout out to, I believe it's called Darths and Droids. It was a D&D webcomic that took shots from all the Star Wars movies. I think it's still going. And made it a tabletop RPG with friends at the table. I misremembered a scene because of that. A deleted scene involving Greedo and Anakin Skywalker. Because of the scene is it's a scuffle because Greedo is saying that Anakin cheated. I misremembered it as Anakin beating Greedo to death with his fists because of that webcomic.
Totally understandable mix-up there.
But I was so excited to get that deleted scene, and then I remembered why I remembered it that way. But I have a quote from George Lucas that makes it just as good.
Oh no.
This is a quote from George Lucas on the Greedo cut scene. The scene with Greedo is a scene not as much about controlling your anger as it is placing your anger in the right place. I think it's an essay in the judicial use of power. Hey, George, this is a scene where two kids beat the shit out of each other. What are you talking about? George? Lucas, man? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, the uhs that I said in there, they were from George. They were not from me. I know I say a lot, but...
Oh! Yoda Part 2.
That's the name of this podcast.
So, Yoda's all about, you can't be afraid, because if you're a little bitch, you'll go to the dark side, you little bitch. At the end of the fucking movie, when Obi-Wan is like, I'm training Anakin, because Qui-Gon, that was Qui-Gon's dying wish, and Yoda's reluctantly like, alright. He goes, alright, but he says something like, fear the training of this young one I do, or something along those lines. I'm like, listen here, fucking motherfucker. You're the one who's all like, if you're afraid of things, you're gonna become a piece of shit, and you're gonna walk around like, I'm afraid of that fucking 9-year-old.
You know, we wonder why his apprentice went to the dark side. That's something we haven't touched on. Yoda's apprentice went to the dark side, probably because of Yoda.
I mean, yeah.
Didn't he spend some time like just being a count before actually falling,
Yes.
or did he fall directly to the dark side like Anakin?
He left the Jedi Order, and presumably based on old canon, met Palps as Sidious through that. But no, he left the Jedi Order.
Okay, and then later became a dark side user.
Either way, he left.
True.
How so I feel like we haven't touched on this enough this episode, and it's going to be a big part of this rotation for you. And I know, we've talked about it off and on, but I feel like not as much. So what was your favorite of the special features you had to watch this week, Josh? And what was your least favorite?
What was your favorite, and why was it the pod race?
I fucking hate you. That's such a hard thing. I was miserable the entire time. You want to know why I was miserable the entire time? I imagine once we're through the prequels, this won't be a problem, because I've watched almost all of them. The Blu-rays, which I did not own, thank you, Ben, they don't have any of the documentaries for the prequels on them. They just have, like, a couple of deleted scenes additional, some info on props. They're divided by planets, which is the strangest fucking thing to me.
That's very odd.
I really thought the Blu-rays weren't going to take long until I went into the prop section and realized, because of Disney Plus, I realized this, because a couple got moved to Disney Plus, that these prop sections didn't just show the props, they showed video documentaries on a bunch of them, and I was genuine. I think that's when I really realized that I was hating what I was doing.
But
that's what I really knew I was in over my head.
But, we should be thankful for Disney Plus for reminding you of that. Disney Plus, your one-stop shop.
I didn't even mention I didn't watch it on Disney Plus this time around, which was a crime, obviously. It wasn't as if I sat down and watched the movie and realized that some movies are better off in standard definition rather than HD. That is definitely not something I realized on this watch.
Disney Plus is perfection. You couldn't ask for a better streaming service than Disney Plus.
And if you subscribe now, you get Hulu with it, a lesser streaming service. And also ESPN Plus?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, man.
Are
Monopoly.
Are we really doing this right now, guys?
Since when were we not doing this? So the thing that I hated the most was that I had to rewatch cut documentary pieces on Backstage a dozen or so times because they were divided between all of these formats. There were the web documentaries, there were the Attack of the Clones is going to be especially awful because there's a mockumentary in there about R2-D2's drug addiction, which should be fun. I'm glad you're so tickled. I'm going to hate it because I've seen it before.
Oh my god!
Well, we have to talk about that in fucking detail next week.
There's the web documentaries, which I'm always most interested in because I've never been able to figure out if they put those web documentaries up on StarWars.com when the movies were being made. It seems like it. There's the deleted scenes and deleted scenes documentaries, which, let it be known, the Phantom Menace changed the market on special features. They did more with special features than anybody else was doing at the time. But it also meant, because of that, I had to listen to George Lucas explain to me what a deleted scene was and why they were putting them in. It was a 7-minute video on what deleted scenes were. During this deleted scene, they had a person that worked on The Unbearable Lightness of Being, a critically acclaimed film based on a critically acclaimed book about a doctor's tale during the invasion of Czechoslovakia, talk about why portions of the invasion of Czechoslovakia had to be cut from the 12-minute cut on the movie The Phantom fucking Menace.
Maybe that's where Rick McCallum got the idea.
And that's when I knew.
They also talk about another movie. I don't remember what it was. It didn't do well, and it's implied in it that the movie didn't do well because they cut the scene that they did, but it was just like, it was a lot. What was the thing I liked about it? I can't
What
say
was
nothing.
The thing I liked about it.
You're gonna hate me, but I was really happy about finding those tone poems because I was laughing a long time when I found them. They're just so awful in such a unique way.
The thing is, I'm mad, but if I'm the one who found them, you better believe I'd try and do the same thing.
The Yoda puppet had makeup artists. That was pretty neat to find out. I was really happy with that discovery.
Imagine telling people you work on Star Wars and then having to explain to them that you do makeup for a fucking puppet.
A puppet that got cut from the movie.
That got cut from the movie?
That was actually why I watched the DVD version, because I didn't want to look at the CGI Yoda. Because I guess one of the things that was particularly substantial to me watching this, I guess these would be the two takeaways that I would say is positive. I gained an appreciation that we've talked about before, but not at length, for, let's say this first off, George Lucas was if this movie wasn't done the way it was done, Hollywood would be different right now. I don't know how, but it would be, CGI would not have come the way it did if it was not for this trilogy, because everybody got to look at this trilogy, learn how to do CGI in the numbers that they did, because there's a scene leading into when they were trying to figure out what was going to be CGI and what was going to be practical effects and what was going to be, just on set with blue screen. There was a scene there where they talked about that, and the look of horror on the ILM and CGI people's faces, I cannot even describe. I guess I appreciate that, and I also appreciate that they went through so much effort to put detail in these planets that still kind of holds up. And I realized I don't want to talk shit about the sequels on the prequels, but it's so obvious with the majority of the sequels that they didn't put a lot of effort into the planets and to make them feel alive. And I guess I gained a little bit more respect for the world building that allowed so many wonderful things to be created from these, like, sweeping shots and stuff. There's also the George Lucas quote to Steven Spielberg while they were shooting one of the reshoots.
Oh, no.
I did more American Graffiti and it made 10 cents. Failed miserably. You can do it. You can destroy these things, It is possible. And I don't know why, but that... I love 8 of the 9 Star Wars movies. I have a love-hate relationship with one of them. I hate one of them. I cannot deny that the "you can break these things, it is possible" comment sinks in, because Star Wars has a habit of breaking itself. It just so happens it can sometimes repair itself. And I guess that's the big thing I learned from this, was that, God, were they trying. They made excuses when they realized that they had fucked up the thing. Obviously, I talked about the big ending there in the first rotation, with them kind of making excuses for themselves. But I guess I appreciated the boldness because of coming off of Rise of Skywalker, because nothing felt bold in that. Everything felt
bland.
Everything felt like they were trying to force feed you something you liked, and it turned out it was not what you wanted. It was not the satisfying end you needed. So I guess that's, if I gotta sum something up from Phantom Menace special features, that would be it. It's just, I appreciate more things about it, even though I hated the entire fucking process, and this has been the worst week of the entire podcast for me.
Josh will be like, this was a great learning experience, even though I want to die now.
So that's what I got. There's a lot more stuff.
Just got the whole rest of the rotation to do, Josh.
This has been Star Wars Every Week Forever. Pray for.
Nope.
God damn it.
Josh,
you ain't gonna sneak out like that.
No, I mean, not going to sneak out like that. You have a whole suggestion of a thing you wanted us to do for this rotation.
I was gonna. So we'll just lead into it this way. At the end of every episode, we're going to make recommendations based on Star Wars. Ben will be taking the prequels of other Star Wars related content that we really love. I was gonna just for me when I do it, add it in post, and then have me and Chris mute at the end, and then have Ben say what he wants to say. So Ben, talk about your recommendation for the week.
So, this week, in honor of Josh having to rewatch the pod race five times, my recommendation of Star Wars extended media is Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer. I recently downloaded this on my computer, and I could say, hot dang, I haven't played it yet, but I'm about to.
Goodbye. And we're out. You mentioned the same thing on the first rotation episode of The Phantom Menace, Ben.
I know, you're welcome.